I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfilment. What senior leaders wish they'd acted on sooner. That's what I'm going to address today. In my experience, there are 3 decisions that even the highest performing leaders I've encountered invariably have delayed taking action on. And that delay has compromised their level of fulfillment, performance, and in some cases, overall well-being. So I want you to have the benefit of hindsight as I share these 3 core areas of focus to allow you to avoid falling into the same trap that they did by delaying on these 3 core areas of importance. Regular listeners of the podcast will be fully aware that the content I share is based on lived life experience. I'm not just preaching theoretical rhetoric from an ivory tower. This is about themes, challenges, patterns I see day in, day out, working with a variety of leaders in different roles and sectors all around the world. And when I see people struggling with the same challenges, I try and unpack that, bring it to the fore through the podcast to give you a chance to avoid falling into the same pitfalls, to allow you to course correct and reflect and adapt your leadership style and strategy. And the last 3 episodes have had a particular theme. And if you haven't listened to them, you can find the links in the show notes. I'd encourage you to go back. And I touched on questions such as when performance stops feeling worth it, when we start questioning, is this still worth it to me? The quiet tax that leadership takes out of us. I moved on to an episode about why specifically senior leaders get trapped in procrastination and what you can do about it. And the last episode was very much around the need to keep evolving and redesigning your leadership style and approach as you move through more and more senior leadership positions. And there's a bit of a theme in all this, that this is not about people who are failing. This is not about people who have been unable to lead. Quite the contrary. These are themes coming out of some of the most high-performing leaders that I have the pleasure of working with. And outwardly, looking in, you'd say, well, these guys are flying. These men and ladies are doing a fabulous job. They're leading in big business, they're leading big teams, and they're doing it really well. And that is true. However, what is often difficult to see is that there is almost a slow puncture that is operating behind the scenes. There is a drain, and that drain is compromising their level of fulfillment. But they're able to battle on. They have a work ethic, they have a tenacity, they have a resilience that allows them to keep moving forward. But that being said, even the most high-performing leaders still deserve a right to fulfillment. It shouldn't be such a battle that it takes everything out of you, that you're exhausted by the time the weekend comes around, that you are repeatedly ill every time you take some sort of sustained holiday vacation from work. You shouldn't be running on a constant dose of cortisol and stress hormones just to keep yourself, your team, and your organization moving forward. So tying the theme of the last 3 episodes together, I felt it was important to share the validation that I've had in recent weeks, not just from the clients I've had the pleasure of coaching, but from a lot of listeners that have come to the fore and said, having listened to these episodes, I can 100% confirm I have been struggling with these same areas. And what I know with absolute certainty is if you can step through the delays you are having in certain key areas, you will reap innumerable benefits, not just you as an individual, but so will your wider team. So today is a short, sharp hit where I'm simply going to put those 3 areas in front of you and encourage you to ensure you are not delaying making decisions in these areas. Because to a man and to a lady, every individual leader that I have helped overcome this particular challenge says, I wish I'd done this sooner. I've burnt up so much emotional bandwidth and energy worrying about this, catastrophizing it, thinking about the worst possible case scenario. I should have just taken action earlier. So with that call to arms ringing in your ear, let's make sure you can avoid that pitfall and you take action immediately. Listen to these areas, apply them to your leadership style, and if you can candidly, ruthlessly assess them and be honest with yourself to say, I'm also guilty of that, then let's make sure we take some action and press forward. So, the first core area of making decisions is boundary decisions. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Let me just rephrase that. Why has this come to pass? Because most leaders have that strong moral compass and that desire to be liked, to do the right thing by their people, and therefore they operate under that deluded notion of an open door policy. That's the beginning of the end, in my experience, because that open door policy then cascades into the diary. There's no boundaries. People are putting meetings in left, right, and centre. Often, when there's shared diaries, people are double, even triple booking leaders. There's no thinking time, there's no protected time to focus on your core strategic priorities. So the calendar's a mess. The immortal "have you got 1 minute" rings in their ears on a daily basis as people pop their head round the door or make a phone call or text, WhatsApp, etc. Have you got a minute? The death knell for productivity. When is it ever a minute? And often the leaders I'm working with don't say no. They filter and assess everybody's requests, and even those that on reflection they know were not urgent, didn't require them to be interrupted from the key task they were on, they don't correct it. They don't follow up. They don't have a conversation to say, actually, that wasn't the way we need to handle that. That could have waited till our next one-to-one meeting, for instance. So there's no boundaries around the interruptions that come to them through their day. There's no boundaries around their calendar. And there's no boundaries around people's expectation. The expectation is the boss is available. They're always available. If I can't see them in their office, I'll get them on the phone and I'll just keep peppering them until I get them. And what is this doing? Well, we all know it's not rocket science. It's destroying your ability to concentrate. It's destroying your productivity. You feel in many cases like the only time you get your work done is early morning before the office comes to life, late at night when everyone's gone home, or bleeding into your weekends. They're the only times you feel productive. And I know there'll be people nodding, saying, yep, that's me. Well, if that's you, we've got to start taking decisions around boundaries, around how your diary is structured, around how our people interact, about how we encourage people to gather up their requirements from you to the next one-to-one or the next team meeting, and have some discipline and some preparation around what they need from you, as opposed to, oh, an idea's popped into my head, I need to go and speak to my boss, I'll just do it straight away. So boundary decisions. Each and every leader that I work with to improve this, to build the right structures, to build the right cadence of meetings and communications, and how and when people can interrupt, and the escalation systems that are required so people know, yep, this is something I really should go and drop on the boss's toes right now, and this is something I should wait. Once we do that, everybody wins. There's no lack of accessibility to the staff. They just have to be a bit more disciplined and structured. They know they can still get to the leader, but not at the drop of a hat. The leader naturally feels so much more productive, feels so much more fulfilled because they're getting through their key strategic tasks. They feel less reactive, more proactive. Their energy, their mindset, everything improves. And so they lead with more impact. Their team win, they win, everybody wins. So the logic is obvious. Why are we not putting any boundaries in place? That's the fundamental question to take out of the first core area of focus today. The second core area that leaders are delaying making decisions on: difficult conversations. As soon as I say that, your mind will go to a certain place. I am almost certain you can think of a difficult conversation you know that you need to have, but for whatever reason, you're delaying it. Perhaps it's somebody whose standards are slipping. They're no longer meeting the cultural expectations of you and the wider group, but you haven't addressed it yet. Perhaps it's somebody who has just underperformed on a recent task. It's not a sustained pattern, but it was still something that needs talking about. Perhaps it's a behavioral trait. Somebody is becoming a little bit toxic in the way they're communicating or operating. Perhaps there's an intimation that somebody's style is bullying somebody else. Perhaps somebody's dominating a team meeting, not giving other people a chance to speak, eroding the psychological safety within their team. Whatever the reason, and there's just a handful that I hear on an almost weekly basis, in my experience, and again, I talk with passion from my own experiences, but I am truly blessed to work with business owners, leaders, CEOs, public, private sector, FTSE 100 companies. I've worked with leaders at every level, and this theme is always present, lurking in the shadows when we start talking about what is draining your energy, what is that slow puncher, what is that proverbial stone in your shoe that's just niggling at you. Difficult conversations always come to the fore, and yet we delay. The elephant becomes too big. Nobody dares tackle it. And so it drifts on. But that can't be allowed to happen because that becomes the new standard. When we ignore underperformance, then our standards drop across the organization. It becomes harder and harder to build a high performing team if we're not all willing at every level of the organization to have difficult conversations. We all know this. There'll be people listening now, I'm sure, nodding, going, I can think of a specific individual that I am delaying having a difficult conversation. Again, there are steps and strategies that help this. This is something I spend a huge amount of time on and will be more than willing to explore this with you one-to-one. But only this weekend, I received a lovely email from a leader who embraced the strategy we'd worked on, stepped fully into that difficult conversation that had been niggling for some weeks, and was absolutely delighted with the outcome of that candid conversation. It was delivered respectfully, the issues were addressed, an action plan was developed, and that emotional, energy draining frustration was removed from the leader of, I know I need to speak to this individual. I know I need to speak to this individual. Another week's gone by. I haven't done it. And what do we learn with the benefit of hindsight? Action is the best way to remove that frustration. Difficult conversations will not go away. However much we want them to, we have to just step forward, step into them with the right frameworks, and take the necessary action. And the third area that I can say unequivocally, leaders constantly feed back to me about, I wish I'd acted on this sooner, is the structural change to their leadership. Now, this was very much a part of our last episode, episode 108. If you don't redesign leadership, it will redesign you. What am I talking about here? Well, we all go on a journey in life, professionally, personally, and certainly when it comes to our professional roles, aspirationally, we want to keep moving up into more and more senior roles with a higher level of responsibility and a higher level of expectation. It therefore stands to reason that what served us initially in our leadership style, how we structured ourselves, what we did, what we were involved with, has to evolve as we move up. But often it doesn't. Strangely, almost like the visual metaphor sometimes have is the sort of the weight tied around our ankle, that sort of physical chain, ball and chain, you're dragging it along with you and you keep clipping other ball and chains on as you move up. You can't do everything you've always done. You can't be involved with every decision you've always been involved in. There's not enough time, you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough intellectual bandwidth. And if you try and do that, you do a disservice to everybody. You burn yourself out because you're involved with too many things. You can't possibly give your best because you're spread too thin, and you disengage and disillusion your team because you become a bottleneck. You're not delegating effectively. You're not giving people authority and autonomy to move forward. Everything gets slow. It's treacle-like in terms of momentum, and that's frustrating. People want to move, develop, grow, make an impact. So we have to restructure what is truly at the top of our priority list, where we are going to deploy our time and energy, where we need to be face-to-face, the projects we need to be closely involved in, the projects we need a lighter touch in. There has to be an evolution of our leadership structure. And yet, I've been there. I say everything with no patronization, no judgment. I've been there. I understand how we get into that trap because it comes from a good place. We want high standards, good quality in all areas. So we try and we strive to stay connected to all areas. But it's just not practical and it's just not reasonable. We have to let go. We have to restructure. And again, it's an area I take a huge amount of pride and passion in, helping people reset, restructure their leadership style and what they are doing and where they are deploying themselves. And to a man and to a lady, once again, nobody's come back to me and said, I feel a lot worse. Everybody comes back and says, wow, I couldn't see the wood for the trees. I don't understand why I was as deluded as I was. This is so much better. I'm performing better. I mean, so that's the top three. I could go on and on because naturally themes continue to spread and ripple, but these are universal. Going back through these three, I think pop up in every single conversation I've ever had at some point or other. Some are more apparent than others and some more critical than others, but the principle of not making the right decisions around boundaries, not making the right decisions around difficult conversations, delaying them both, and delaying that essential requirement of restructuring and reordering our leadership structures and style. they are causing frustration and compromising performance. And so the whole crux of this is, if the majority of leaders I have worked with and met wish they'd acted on it sooner, I implore you to act on them today. I'm sure there will be something in one of those three areas that was popping into your mind as you were listening. Note it down, jot it down in your journal, take a little note in your app on your phone, and do something about it today. What boundary needs to be put in place? What difficult conversation needs to be booked in to your calendar? What do you need to start delegating as part of the very first and easiest step to restructure where your leadership time and energy is going? As with all these topics, I am available. I am more than happy to take the feedback. We read all the messages that come back in. And if you'd like to set up an insight call and explore how I might be able to help you in a one-to-one capacity, then please do get in touch. If this topic is resonating, if this is something that you get value from, then please do take the time to rate, to give a star rating on the podcast. I know I mention this regularly, but we are seeing that every time somebody does that, there's a real ripple effect and a surge in the number of followers of the podcast show itself. Naturally, we want as many people to be able to access this to hopefully improve their level of leadership, their level of performance, and essentially their level of fulfillment. So if you can take the time to pop a star rating on whatever platform you listen, if you haven't already done it, well, thank you very much. We're very grateful. And as ever, I wish you the very best of luck on your continued journey of growth and development. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.